What if I told you that the same parents who called me a complete failure at Thanksgiving dinner are now telling everyone in town that the 30-story office complex with my name on it belongs to their daughter? My name is Elena Rodriguez, and 18 months ago, my family publicly humiliated me at our annual Thanksgiving gathering, calling my career aspirations delusional fantasies and suggesting I needed professional help for my unrealistic expectations. Today, as I stand in the executive suite of Rodriguez Development Group overlooking downtown Denver, I can see my parents' house from my corner office window, the same house where they told me I would never amount to anything significant. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The journey from that devastating Thanksgiving confrontation to this moment of vindication represents one of the most challenging and transformative periods of my life. It is a story about family expectations, professional determination, and the extraordinary power that emerges when someone refuses to accept other people's limitations of their potential. More importantly, it is a story about discovering that your greatest strength often lies hidden within what others consider your most significant weakness. The transformation began not with sudden inspiration or lucky breaks, but with a single moment of clarity that emerged from the deepest humiliation I had ever experienced. That clarity would ultimately drive me to build something that exceeded even my own ambitious expectations, while simultaneously proving that success is not about meeting other people's definitions of achievement, but about creating value that the market recognizes and rewards. Standing here now, surrounded by architectural renderings of future projects and financial statements that reflect annual revenues approaching $50 million, I understand that the path from family rejection to professional recognition required more than determination and hard work. It demanded a fundamental shift in how I viewed my own potential, my relationship with risk, and my willingness to pursue opportunities that others could not envision or appreciate. The story I am about to share encompasses 18 months of systematic effort, strategic relationship building, and calculated risk-taking that transformed a dismissed dream into a dominant market position. It is also a story about family dynamics, about the complex relationships between support and control, and about the moment when you must choose between comfortable conformity and uncomfortable growth. The Rodriguez family had operated according to clearly defined expectations for as long as I could remember. Success meant stable employment, preferably in fields that provided predictable income and social respectability. Education represented the pathway to professional achievement, but only when channeled toward conventional career objectives that our parents could understand and explain to their friends and extended family members. My childhood had been structured around these principles. Academic excellence was expected and rewarded, but always within the context of preparing for traditional professional roles. When I expressed interest in creative pursuits or entrepreneurial concepts, those interests were acknowledged politely before being redirected toward more practical considerations. The pattern continued through high school and into my college years at Colorado State University, where I pursued a degree in business administration while privately developing fascination with real estate development and urban planning. My parents viewed my business degree as preparation for corporate employment, ideally in financial services or healthcare administration, industries they considered stable and respectable. What they did not understand was that my business education was providing me with tools for analyzing market opportunities, evaluating investment potential, and understanding the financial mechanics of property development. While they imagined me in conference rooms preparing quarterly reports, I was studying demographic trends, construction costs, and zoning regulations that would eventually inform my entrepreneurial strategy. The disconnect between their expectations and my ambitions created an undercurrent of tension that influenced every family conversation about my future. They spoke about my career prospects with confidence, describing the corporate positions I would pursue and the steady advancement I would achieve through dedicated effort and professional competence. I participated in these conversations diplomatically, while privately developing plans that diverged completely from their vision. After graduation, I accepted a position with Morrison & Associates, a mid-sized commercial real estate firm that specialized in office building management and small-scale development projects. The position offered exposure to property valuation, tenant relations, and project management, while providing the stable income that satisfied my parents' immediate concerns about my professional trajectory. Morrison & Associates represented exactly the kind of respectable employment that our family valued. The company had an established reputation in the Denver market, offered comprehensive benefits, and provided a clear advancement path for dedicated employees. My parents were genuinely pleased with my choice, and frequently mentioned my employment to their friends as evidence of successful child-rearing and educational investment. What my parents did not realize was that my position at Morrison & Associates was functioning as an intensive apprenticeship in real estate development rather than a conventional career track. I was learning property acquisition strategies, construction management principles, and client relationship development while being paid to acquire expertise that would eventually support independent ventures. My supervisor, Janet Morrison, was the daughter of the company founder and a highly experienced professional who had built her expertise through decades of hands-on involvement in property development projects. Janet recognized my enthusiasm for learning and began involving me in increasingly sophisticated aspects of the business, from financial modeling to contractor negotiations to municipal permit processes. Under Janet's mentorship, I discovered that successful real estate development required a combination of analytical skills, relationship management capabilities, and market timing intuition that aligned perfectly with my natural strengths and interests. I excelled at identifying undervalued properties, developing creative financing solutions, and managing the complex logistics of construction projects. More importantly, I began to understand that real estate development offered opportunities for creating substantial value through strategic vision and systematic execution. Properties that others overlooked often represented exceptional investment potential for developers who could envision their highest and best use. Neighborhoods that appeared stagnant often contained the demographic and economic conditions necessary for significant appreciation. During my second year at Morrison & Associates, I began conducting independent research on Denver's real estate market trends, focusing specifically on emerging neighborhoods that showed potential for significant appreciation but had not yet attracted major development interest. This research was conducted during evenings and weekends, using publicly available data combined with on-site observation and demographic analysis. The research revealed several areas where changing demographics, infrastructure improvements, and zoning modifications were creating conditions favorable for strategic development projects. These neighborhoods typically featured older buildings with development potential, growing populations of young professionals, and municipal support for urban renewal initiatives. One area that particularly captured my attention was the Highlands District, a historically working-class neighborhood that was experiencing gradual transformation due to its proximity to downtown Denver, its stock of architecturally interesting buildings, and its relatively affordable property prices. The neighborhood showed clear signs of early gentrification, but most developers were focusing on more established areas with higher property values and greater market recognition. My analysis indicated that the Highlands District offered exceptional opportunities for someone willing to make strategic investments before the area achieved broader market recognition. Property acquisition costs were still reasonable. Construction permits were readily available, and demographic trends suggested strong demand for modern residential and commercial spaces designed for young professionals and creative entrepreneurs. I developed detailed financial models that demonstrated the profit potential of strategic development projects in the Highlands District. These models accounted for acquisition costs, construction expenses, financing requirements, and market absorption rates while projecting returns that significantly exceeded conventional real estate investment opportunities. Armed with comprehensive market research and financial projections, I began developing a detailed business plan for an independent real estate development company that would specialize in strategic investments in emerging Denver neighborhoods. The plan incorporated lessons learned through my experience at Morrison & Associates, while focusing on market segments that larger developers were overlooking or undervaluing. The business concept centered on identifying undervalued properties in neighborhoods, showing early signs of transformation, acquiring those properties at favorable prices, and developing them into modern residential or commercial spaces that would appeal to the demographic groups driving neighborhood change. This approach required relatively modest initial capital while offering substantial profit potential for projects that were executed successfully. The competitive advantage would come from my detailed knowledge of Denver market conditions, my ability to identify opportunities before they became widely recognized, and my willingness to invest in neighborhoods that other developers considered too risky or too small for their consideration. I would be filling a gap in the market by serving clients and areas that larger companies ignored. Financial projections indicated that a properly capitalized development company could achieve profitability within 18 months while building a portfolio of properties that would appreciate significantly as targeted neighborhoods completed their transformation. The model required initial capital of approximately $200,000 to support property acquisition, construction financing, and operating expenses during the startup phase. I had been saving aggressively since beginning my employment. At Morrison & Associates, living frugally and investing wisely to build capital for future opportunities. By the end of my second year with the company, I had accumulated approximately $75,000 in savings and investment accounts, representing a solid foundation for seeking additional financing to launch my development company. As my business plan became more detailed and my financial resources grew more substantial, I began sharing aspects of my entrepreneurial vision with my family during our regular Sunday dinners and holiday gatherings. These conversations revealed a fundamental disconnect between my professional ambitions and their expectations for my career development. My parents listened politely to my explanations of market opportunities and development strategies, but their responses consistently emphasized the risks and uncertainties associated with entrepreneurial ventures. They questioned whether I had sufficient experience to compete with established developers, whether the Denver market could support additional competition, and whether my projections were realistic given my limited track record in independent business operations. More troubling was their apparent inability to recognize the expertise and market knowledge I had developed through my work at Morrison & Associates. They seemed to view my current employment as preparation for advancement within established companies rather than education for independent entrepreneurship. When I described specific opportunities I had identified, they responded with skepticism about my ability to evaluate those opportunities accurately. The conversations gradually took on a pattern that became increasingly frustrating and demoralizing. I would present detailed analysis of market trends and investment opportunities, supported by comprehensive research and financial modeling. They would respond with general concerns about business risks and suggestions that I should focus on advancement within my current company rather than pursuing uncertain independent ventures. These family discussions were particularly difficult because they came from people who genuinely cared about my well-being and success. Their skepticism was not motivated by malice or jealousy, but by concern about what they perceived as unrealistic expectations and dangerous financial risks. They wanted me to achieve success, but only within frameworks they understood and considered safe. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story. The situation reached a critical juncture during our family's annual Thanksgiving gathering, held at my parents' house with extended family members, including aunts, uncles, and cousins who had traveled from various parts of Colorado and neighboring states for the celebration. This gathering had always represented the most important family event of the year, where relatives shared updates about their achievements and challenges while reinforcing the bonds that connected our extended family network. The dinner conversation naturally evolved toward professional updates and career developments, with various family members sharing news about promotions, job changes, and business successes. When my turn arrived to provide an update on my professional situation, I decided to share comprehensive details about my development company plans and the specific opportunities I had identified in Denver's real estate market. I explained the market research I had conducted, the financial projections I had developed, and the timeline I had established for launching Rodriguez Development Group as an independent company focused on strategic investments in emerging neighborhoods. I described the competitive advantages my approach would provide and the profit potential that my analysis indicated was achievable through careful project selection and execution. The response from my family was more negative and dismissive than I had anticipated, even given their previous skepticism about my entrepreneurial aspirations. What had been polite concern in private conversations became open criticism in front of extended family members who were hearing about my plans for the first time. My father was the first to respond, expressing amazement that I would consider leaving stable employment to pursue what he characterized as get-rich-quick schemes in an industry dominated by experienced professionals with substantial financial resources. He questioned whether I understood the complexity of real estate development and suggested that my confidence was based on inexperience rather than genuine expertise. My mother's response was even more devastating, focusing on what she described as my unrealistic expectations and grandiose fantasies about achieving success in a field where I had no proven track record. She suggested that my plans reflected poor judgment and possibly psychological issues that required professional attention. The conversation continued for nearly an hour, with various family members contributing their concerns and criticisms, while I attempted to defend my plans and demonstrate the research and analysis that supported my conclusions. The dynamic became increasingly uncomfortable as relatives who had no knowledge of real estate development offered opinions about market conditions and business risks. My cousin David, who worked as an accountant for a manufacturing company, questioned my financial projections and suggested that I was underestimating the costs and overestimating the revenues associated with development projects. My Aunt Patricia, who had never been involved in business ownership of any kind, expressed concern about the impact that business failure would have on my ability to support myself and potentially contribute to family needs in the future. The most painful moment came when my Uncle Robert, who owned a small plumbing business, suggested that my development company plans were evidence of delusions of grandeur that reflected my inability to accept my limitations and work within my actual capabilities. He recommended that I speak with a therapist about what he characterized as my unrealistic self-assessment and my apparent need to pursue fantasy goals instead of practical career advancement. The conversation concluded with my father making a statement that would haunt me for months afterward. He announced to the entire gathering that my entrepreneurial plans were complete nonsense and that I was setting myself up for failure by pursuing opportunities that were completely beyond my capabilities. He expressed embarrassment about my unrealistic expectations and suggested that I needed to grow up and accept reality about my professional limitations. The silence that followed his statement was profound and uncomfortable. Extended family members looked away or focused on their plates, unsure how to respond to such a direct and public dismissal of my professional ambitions. I sat frozen, feeling humiliated and emotionally devastated by the realization that my own family not only failed to support my dreams, but actively considered them evidence of psychological problems. However, as I reflected on the specific criticisms that had been raised, I realized that most of them were based on limited understanding of real estate development markets and general assumptions about business risks rather than informed analysis of my specific plans and qualifications. My family members were applying conventional wisdom about entrepreneurship without examining the detailed research and strategic analysis that supported my conclusions. More importantly, I recognized that their skepticism reflected their own limitations and fears, rather than accurate assessment of my potential or the opportunities I had identified. They were projecting their own risk aversion and conventional thinking onto my situation, unable to envision success paths that diverged from their familiar patterns of employment and advancement. The clarity that emerged from this realization was both liberating and motivating. I understood that proving my family wrong would require demonstrating results rather than presenting arguments. No amount of research or analysis would convince them that my plans were viable until those plans produced measurable success that they could not dismiss or ignore. That night marked the end of my attempts to gain family support for my entrepreneurial venture and the beginning of my commitment to pursuing success independently, regardless of their approval or understanding. I would build Rodriguez Development Group through my own effort and vision, creating value that the market would recognize even if my family could not. The weeks following Thanksgiving were filled with intensive planning and preparation for launching my development company. Despite the complete absence of family support and the lingering emotional impact of their public dismissal, I channeled the humiliation and disappointment into focused energy for transforming my business plan into operational reality. I began by conducting additional market research to validate my analysis and identify specific properties that represented immediate investment opportunities. This research confirmed my previous conclusions about the Highlands District, while revealing additional neighborhoods that showed similar potential for strategic development projects. I also initiated conversations with potential financing sources, including community banks that specialized in small business lending and private investors who focused on real estate development opportunities. These conversations provided valuable feedback about my business plan while establishing relationships that would support future project financing. Most importantly, I began the process of transitioning from employee to entrepreneur by establishing the legal and operational framework for Rodriguez Development Group. This involved business registration, insurance coverage, professional licensing, and the administrative infrastructure necessary for independent business operations. The decision to proceed without family support was difficult, but ultimately liberating. I would not need to justify my choices or defend my vision to people who could not understand or appreciate my approach. I could focus entirely on creating value for clients and investors who shared my vision rather than convincing skeptics who were determined to focus on risks and limitations. As I concluded the initial planning phase and prepared to launch Rodriguez Development Group, I carried with me the memory of that Thanksgiving dinner and the public humiliation that had catalyzed my commitment to independent success. The pain of family rejection had been transformed into motivation for proving that their assessment of my potential was fundamentally incorrect. I understood that the journey ahead would be challenging and uncertain, requiring persistence, adaptability, and unwavering commitment to my vision despite inevitable setbacks and obstacles. However, I also understood that the alternative, accepting their limitations and abandoning my entrepreneurial ambitions, would represent a far greater failure than any business setback I might encounter. The stage was set for a transformation that would exceed even my own ambitious projections, ultimately leading to the moment when my parents would see my name on a building and realize that their failure had become one of Denver's most successful young entrepreneurs. The journey from humiliation to vindication was about to begin. The foundations of entrepreneurial thinking are rarely established through formal education or deliberate planning. They emerge instead through accumulated experiences that teach pattern recognition, resource optimization, and creative problem-solving in environments where conventional approaches prove inadequate. My own entrepreneurial development began during childhood in ways that neither my parents nor I understood. At the time, building capabilities that would eventually enable me to identify and capitalize on opportunities that others consistently overlooked. Growing up as the eldest daughter in the Rodriguez household meant accepting responsibility early and learning to navigate complex family dynamics with diplomatic precision. My parents, Miguel and Carmen Rodriguez, had immigrated to Colorado from Mexico in their early 20s, bringing with them cultural values that emphasized family unity, educational achievement, and respect for established authority structures. These values provided our family with stability and direction, but they also created expectations that would eventually conflict with my unconventional career aspirations. Miguel worked as a supervisor at a large manufacturing facility that produced automotive components for assembly plants throughout the Midwest. His position required managing production schedules, coordinating with multiple departments, and ensuring quality standards while meeting demanding output requirements. The work was steady and well compensated, providing our family with middle-class stability and the financial resources necessary for educational investments and home ownership. Carmen managed the household finances with extraordinary precision, while working part-time as a bookkeeper for a local medical practice. Her attention to detail and systematic approach to financial planning ensured that our family consistently lived within our means while building savings for future opportunities and emergencies. She understood intuitively that financial discipline created options and security that were not available to families who managed money carelessly or impulsively. The Rodriguez household operated according to clearly defined principles that reflected both Mexican cultural traditions and American middle-class aspirations. Education represented the pathway to professional advancement and social mobility. Hard work and persistence would eventually produce recognition and reward. Family members supported each other through challenges and celebrated each other's achievements. These principles provided our foundation and influenced every significant decision our family made. My younger sister Isabel and I understood from early childhood that our parents had sacrificed significantly to provide us with opportunities that had not been available to them. Their immigration experience had taught them that success in America required strategic planning, disciplined effort, and unwavering commitment to long-term goals. They were determined that their daughters would achieve the professional success and social recognition that had been limited by their own circumstances and timing. During elementary school, I demonstrated capabilities that distinguished me from classmates but did not align neatly with conventional academic categories. While other students excelled in specific subjects like mathematics or reading, I showed unusual aptitude for understanding systems, identifying inefficiencies, and developing creative solutions that addressed multiple problems simultaneously. This pattern became evident during a fourth-grade project that required students to design an improved layout for our school cafeteria. Most students focused on aesthetic considerations like color schemes and decorative elements. I developed a comprehensive redesign that addressed traffic flow problems, reduced waiting times, and improved food service efficiency, while also incorporating the aesthetic improvements that other students had emphasized. The project required researching cafeteria operations, interviewing kitchen staff about their daily challenges, and observing student behavior patterns during lunch periods. I discovered that the existing layout created bottlenecks that slowed service and contributed to discipline problems, while also wasting space that could be utilized more effectively for both functional and social purposes. My redesign proposal included detailed diagrams, cost estimates, and implementation timelines that demonstrated understanding of project management principles that were typically beyond elementary school curricula. The solution addressed problems that faculty members had recognized but had not systematically analyzed or attempted to resolve through comprehensive planning. When I presented the project to my class, the response from both students and teachers indicated that my approach was significantly more sophisticated than typical fourth-grade work. However, rather than recognizing this as evidence of unusual analytical capabilities, most adults interpreted it as exceptional effort rather than exceptional thinking. They praised my dedication and thoroughness while missing the strategic insight that had enabled me to develop solutions that were both creative and practical. This pattern continued throughout my elementary and middle school years. I consistently produced work that addressed problems more comprehensively than assignments required, while developing solutions that considered factors and implications that other students ignored. Teachers appreciated my effort and recognized my academic performance, but they did not identify the entrepreneurial thinking that was driving my approach to problem solving. My parents were genuinely pleased with my academic performance, and proud of the recognition I received from teachers and school administrators. They viewed my success as validation of their parenting approach and confirmation that their investment in education was producing the intended results. However, they interpreted my achievements within the framework of their own expectations, rather than recognizing the unique characteristics that were generating those achievements. When I brought home projects that demonstrated unusually sophisticated analysis or creative problem-solving, they focused on the grades and teacher comments rather than examining the thinking processes that had produced exceptional results. They were pleased that I was excelling academically, but they did not recognize that my success was emerging from entrepreneurial capabilities that could eventually be applied to business opportunities. Their response reflected their own educational experiences and career trajectories. Miguel had succeeded through technical competence and reliability within established organizational structures. Carmen had advanced through attention to detail and systematic application of proven procedures. Both had achieved professional success by mastering conventional approaches and applying them consistently and effectively. From their perspective, my academic achievements suggested that I would excel in educational environments that would eventually lead to professional positions similar to their own, but at higher levels of responsibility and compensation. They envisioned me in corporate settings where my analytical capabilities would be valued and rewarded through advancement within established organizational hierarchies. What they did not recognize was that my approach to academic challenges was fundamentally different from conventional student behavior. While other students completed assignments according to specific requirements, I consistently expanded project scope to address broader issues and develop comprehensive solutions. While other students focused on meeting teacher expectations, I focused on solving underlying problems that assignments were designed to explore. During high school, my interest in business operations and strategic planning became more focused and deliberate. I began observing the commercial establishments where our family conducted routine business, analyzing their operations and identifying opportunities for improvement that could increase efficiency, reduce costs, or enhance customer satisfaction. The grocery store where Carmen shopped weekly provided numerous examples of operational inefficiencies that created unnecessary costs and customer frustration. Checkout procedures were poorly organized, creating long lines during peak periods. Product placement seemed random rather than strategic, making shopping more time-consuming than necessary. Inventory management appeared inconsistent, resulting in frequent stockouts of popular items while slow-moving products occupied valuable shelf space. I began documenting these observations and developing alternative approaches that could address multiple problems simultaneously. My analysis included customer traffic patterns, product demand forecasting, and staffing optimization strategies that could improve both operational efficiency and customer experience while reducing operating costs. Similar patterns were evident at other businesses our family frequented. The bank where my parents maintained their accounts had service procedures that created unnecessary waiting times and paperwork requirements. The restaurant where we occasionally celebrated special occasions had kitchen workflows that resulted in inconsistent food quality and service timing. The retail stores where we purchased clothing and household items had inventory systems that frequently failed to match customer preferences with available merchandise. These observations taught me that most businesses operated with significant inefficiencies that represented both problems for owners and opportunities for competitors who could develop superior approaches. Successful entrepreneurs identified these gaps between current performance and optimal performance, then created solutions that captured value by addressing unmet needs more effectively than existing alternatives. By my junior year of high school, I had decided to pursue business administration in college while focusing specifically on real estate development and urban planning. This decision was based on research indicating that real estate offered exceptional opportunities for entrepreneurs who could identify undervalued assets, develop creative financing solutions, and execute improvement projects that created substantial value appreciation. Real estate development appealed to me because it combined analytical thinking with creative problem solving, while requiring the kind of comprehensive project management that I had demonstrated consistently throughout my academic career. Successful. Developers needed to understand market trends, construction processes, financial modeling, and regulatory requirements while also possessing the vision necessary to recognize potential that others could not perceive. I began preparing for this career direction by taking advanced mathematics courses that would support financial analysis, while also studying economics and government courses that would provide understanding of market dynamics and regulatory environments. I supplemented classroom learning with independent research on Denver real estate trends, construction techniques, and development financing strategies. The preparation was systematic and thorough, reflecting my understanding that entrepreneurial success required extensive knowledge and careful planning rather than intuition or luck. I studied successful developers to understand their strategies and decision-making processes. I analyzed failed projects to identify common mistakes and risk factors that needed to be avoided. I researched market conditions to understand the factors that created opportunities and the timing considerations that determined project viability. My parents supported my decision to pursue business education while remaining focused on their expectation that I would eventually seek employment with established companies rather than pursuing independent entrepreneurship. They viewed my business degree as preparation for corporate advancement rather than business ownership, consistent with their own career experiences and risk management preferences. Colorado State University provided an excellent environment for developing the analytical and strategic thinking capabilities that would eventually support my real estate development career. The business administration program offered comprehensive coverage of accounting principles, marketing strategies, operations management, and financial analysis, while providing opportunities for specialized study in real estate and urban planning. I approached college coursework with the same systematic thoroughness that had characterized my high school academic performance. Rather than simply completing assignments according to specific requirements, I used each course as an opportunity to develop expertise that would eventually support entrepreneurial ventures. Accounting courses provided understanding of financial statement analysis and cash flow management. Marketing courses taught customer behavior analysis and competitive positioning strategies. Management courses covered organizational development and leadership principles. Most valuable were the courses that addressed real estate markets specifically, including property valuation methods, development financing structures, and construction project management. These courses provided technical knowledge that was essential for understanding development opportunities while also connecting me with faculty members who had practical experience in real estate markets. Professor Maria Santos at Colorado State became an informal mentor who recognized my entrepreneurial interests and provided guidance that extended well beyond classroom requirements. Professor Santos had worked as a commercial real estate broker before joining the university faculty, and she understood the practical aspects of property development that were not adequately covered in academic curricula. Under Professor Santos's guidance, I began conducting independent research projects that analyzed specific development opportunities in Colorado markets. These projects required comprehensive analysis of demographic trends, construction costs, financing alternatives, and regulatory requirements, while also developing financial models that projected investment returns under various scenarios. BHI research experience taught me that successful real estate development required combining multiple types of expertise in ways that were not typically addressed through conventional educational programs. Technical knowledge about construction and finance needed to be supplemented with market analysis capabilities and strategic planning skills. Most importantly, successful developers needed to understand local market conditions with exceptional depth and precision. During my junior year, I secured an internship position with Morrison & Associates, the commercial real estate firm that would eventually become my full-time employer after graduation. The internship provided exposure to actual development projects, while allowing me to observe experienced professionals managing the complex logistics of property acquisition, construction management, and project financing. Janet Morrison, who supervised my internship, quickly recognized my analytical capabilities and began involving me in increasingly sophisticated aspects of the business. Initially, I was assigned routine tasks like market research and document preparation. However, as Janet observed my work quality and strategic thinking, she began including me in client meetings and project planning sessions where I could observe decision-making processes and contribute analytical support. The experience was invaluable for understanding the gap between academic theories about real estate development and the practical realities of executing actual projects. Real estate development required managing multiple variables simultaneously, including construction schedules, financing requirements, regulatory approvals, and market timing considerations. Successful developers needed to anticipate problems before they occurred while maintaining flexibility to adapt their strategies when circumstances changed unexpectedly. I also learned that successful development required building and maintaining relationships with multiple categories of professionals, including contractors, architects, engineers, attorneys, accountants, and municipal officials. These relationships were essential for accessing information, securing favorable terms, and coordinating the complex activities required for project completion. Most importantly, the internship taught me that real estate development offered exceptional opportunities for entrepreneurs who could identify undervalued properties and develop creative approaches for maximizing their potential. The developers who achieved exceptional success were those who could recognize opportunities that others missed while executing improvement projects that created substantial value appreciation. After completing my degree, I accepted a full-time position with Morrison & Associates that provided comprehensive experience in commercial real estate while allowing me to continue learning from Janet Morrison and other experienced professionals. The position offered exposure to various types of development projects, from small-scale renovations to major construction initiatives, while providing the stable income that satisfied my parents' expectations for my career trajectory. My parents were genuinely pleased with my employment choice, viewing Morrison & Associates as exactly the kind of established company where I could build a successful career through dedicated effort and professional competence. The firm had an excellent reputation in Denver real estate markets, offered comprehensive benefits, and provided clear advancement opportunities for employees who demonstrated exceptional performance. What my parents did not understand was that I was using my position at Morrison & Associates as an intensive learning experience rather than a conventional career path. Every project provided lessons about market analysis, project management, and client relations that were directly applicable to independent development ventures. Every client interaction taught me about customer needs and preferences that could inform future business strategies. I approached my employment with Morrison & Associates as a paid apprenticeship in real estate development, absorbing knowledge, and building capabilities that would eventually support entrepreneurial ventures. The experience was providing me with technical expertise, professional relationships, and market knowledge that would be essential for competing successfully as an independent developer. During my second year with Morrison & Associates, I began conducting independent research on Denver real estate markets, focusing specifically on identifying neighborhoods and property types that offered exceptional development potential, but had not yet attracted major investor attention. This research was conducted during evenings and weekends, using publicly available data combined with on-site observation and demographic analysis. The analysis revealed several market segments where changing demographics, infrastructure improvements, and zoning modifications were creating conditions favorable for strategic development projects. These opportunities typically required relatively modest capital investments, while offering substantial profit potential for developers who could execute projects effectively and time market entry appropriately. The research methodology I developed combined quantitative analysis of market data with qualitative assessment of neighborhood characteristics and development potential. I analyzed population trends, income levels, employment patterns, and housing preferences while also observing traffic patterns, commercial activity levels, and infrastructure conditions that would affect property values and development feasibility. This comprehensive approach enabled me to identify opportunities that were not apparent through conventional market analysis methods. While other developers focused on established neighborhoods with proven track records, I was identifying emerging areas where strategic investments could capture value appreciation during the early stages of neighborhood transformation. The opportunity recognition process became increasingly sophisticated as I refined my analytical methods and expanded my knowledge of Denver market conditions. I developed systematic approaches for evaluating development potential that considered multiple factors simultaneously, creating decision-making frameworks that could be applied consistently across different properties and neighborhoods. Understanding that entrepreneurial success would require substantial capital resources, I began implementing aggressive savings strategies immediately after beginning my employment with Morrison & Associates. I established detailed budgets that minimized discretionary spending while maximizing monthly contributions to investment accounts specifically designated for future business ventures. The financial planning was systematic and disciplined, reflecting my understanding that capital accumulation was essential for pursuing development opportunities when they became available. I researched various investment options to optimize returns on savings while maintaining liquidity necessary for business investments. I also began building relationships with potential financing sources, including community banks and private investors who specialized in real estate development projects. By the end of my second year with Morrison & Associates, I had accumulated approximately $75,000 in savings and investment accounts while also establishing credit relationships that would support future project financing. The capital accumulation was ahead of schedule compared to my original projections, creating opportunities for earlier business launch than I had initially anticipated. The financial discipline required for this capital accumulation was significant, requiring lifestyle choices that sometimes conflicted with social expectations and family preferences. While friends and colleagues spent discretionary income on entertainment, travel, and consumer purchases, I consistently prioritized savings and investment over immediate gratification. As my knowledge of Denver real estate markets deepened and my capital resources grew, I began developing increasing confidence in my ability to identify and execute profitable development projects independently. The combination of technical expertise gained through my employment, market knowledge developed through independent research, and financial resources accumulated through disciplined saving created the foundation necessary for entrepreneurial ventures. The confidence was based on systematic analysis rather than wishful thinking. I had identified specific opportunities that represented exceptional profit potential. I understood the technical requirements for executing development projects successfully. I had access to the professional relationships and financial resources necessary for project implementation. Most importantly, I had developed analytical capabilities that enabled me to evaluate opportunities more comprehensively than conventional approaches typically provided. My methodology considered factors that other developers often overlooked, while creating decision-making frameworks that reduced risks and optimized potential returns. This growing confidence would soon be tested through family interactions that revealed the fundamental disconnect between my entrepreneurial ambitions and their expectations for my career development. The stage was being set for conflicts that would ultimately force me to choose between family approval and professional fulfillment. The transformation from employee to entrepreneur requires more than ambition and determination. It demands systematic analysis of market opportunities, comprehensive understanding of competitive dynamics, and detailed planning that addresses every aspect of business operations from initial capitalization through long-term growth strategies. The development of Rodriguez Development Group began not with sudden inspiration, but with methodical research and strategic planning that would eventually enable me to compete successfully against established developers with substantially greater resources and market recognition. The catalyst for this planning process occurred during a routine property inspection at Morrison & Associates, when I accompanied Janet Morrison to evaluate a potential acquisition in the Highlands district of Denver. The The property was a deteriorating office building that had been constructed in the 1960s and had suffered from years of deferred maintenance and declining occupancy rates. Most commercial real estate professionals would have dismissed the building as a marginal investment requiring extensive renovation costs that would likely exceed potential returns. However, as I walked through the building and examined its structural condition, location characteristics, and surrounding neighborhood dynamics, I recognized exceptional development potential that extended far beyond simple renovation strategies. The building occupied a prominent corner location in a neighborhood that was showing clear signs of demographic transformation. The architectural bones were solid despite superficial deterioration. Most importantly, the property was priced substantially below replacement cost, creating opportunities for value creation through strategic repositioning rather than conventional improvement approaches. The Highlands District represented exactly the kind of emerging neighborhood where strategic development investments could generate exceptional returns for investors who understood market timing and demographic trends. The area featured historic architecture, proximity to downtown Denver, and transportation infrastructure that would support continued growth. Property values remained below those in more established neighborhoods, but demographic data indicated increasing interest from young professionals and creative entrepreneurs who were seeking affordable alternatives to expensive downtown housing options. During the property inspection, I began developing preliminary concepts for transforming the building from conventional office space into mixed-use development that would appeal to the demographic groups driving neighborhood change. The ground floor could accommodate retail establishments that would serve both residents and visitors. Upper floors could be converted into modern residential units designed for young professionals who valued urban convenience and architectural character over suburban amenities. The financial analysis required for evaluating this development concept revealed the sophisticated planning methodology that would eventually distinguish Rodriguez Development Group from conventional real estate companies. Rather than focusing solely on acquisition costs and construction expenses, I developed comprehensive models that considered demographic trends, market absorption rates, competitive positioning strategies, and long-term appreciation potential. The business planning process for Rodriguez Development Group began with extensive market research designed to identify specific opportunities where strategic development investments could generate superior returns compared to conventional real estate investment approaches. This research extended far beyond typical market analysis to include demographic studies, infrastructure development projections, municipal planning initiatives, and cultural trend analysis that would affect future property demand patterns. The research methodology incorporated both quantitative analysis of market data and qualitative assessment of neighborhood characteristics that would influence development potential. I analyzed population growth patterns, income distribution trends, employment sector developments, and housing preference changes, while also conducting extensive field research that involved spending time in target neighborhoods to observe activity, patterns, commercial vitality levels, and infrastructure conditions. Denver's real estate market presented numerous opportunities for strategic development investments, but identifying the most promising possibilities required understanding subtle market dynamics that were not apparent through conventional analysis methods. Emerging neighborhoods often showed statistical indicators that suggested growth potential, but successful development required distinguishing between areas with genuine transformation potential and those where demographic changes would remain limited or temporary. The Highlands District emerged as the primary focus of my development strategy because it demonstrated multiple indicators of sustainable growth potential. The neighborhood featured historic architecture that appealed to young professionals seeking character and authenticity. Transportation infrastructure provided convenient access to downtown employment centers. Property prices remained affordable compared to established residential areas, creating opportunities for value-conscious consumers who were willing to accept slightly longer commutes in exchange for housing affordability and neighborhood authenticity. Demographic analysis revealed that the Highlands District was attracting increasing numbers of college graduates, creative professionals, and small business owners who were seeking alternatives to expensive downtown living while remaining connected to urban amenities and employment opportunities. This population represented ideal target customers for development projects that combined modern conveniences with historic character and community-oriented design features. The competitive analysis revealed that established developers were largely ignoring the Highlands District because property values had not yet reached levels that would generate profits sufficient for large-scale development companies with substantial overhead costs and profit margin requirements. This created opportunities for smaller, more efficient development companies that could achieve profitability at lower revenue levels while providing more personalized service and creative design solutions. The business model for Rodriguez Development Group was designed to capitalize on market opportunities that larger developers were overlooking, while providing superior value to customers who were underserved by conventional real estate development approaches. The strategy focused on acquiring undervalued properties in emerging neighborhoods, implementing creative renovation and repositioning projects, and marketing the results to demographic groups that were driving neighborhood transformation processes. The competitive advantage would emerge from combining comprehensive market analysis with efficient project execution and targeted marketing strategies. While established developers relied on standardized approaches that minimized risks, but also limited profit potential, Rodriguez Development Group would succeed through customized solutions that addressed specific market needs while optimizing returns through strategic timing and creative financing approaches. The target market consisted primarily of young professionals, creative entrepreneurs, and small business owners who valued authenticity, community connection, and urban convenience over suburban amenities and standardized housing options. This demographic was growing rapidly in Denver and similar metropolitan areas, but their preferences were not being addressed effectively by conventional residential and commercial development projects. Revenue generation would occur through multiple channels that provided both immediate cash flow and long-term appreciation potential. Property acquisition and renovation projects would generate profits through strategic value-add improvements that increased market value significantly beyond investment costs. Property management services would provide ongoing revenue streams while maintaining relationships with tenants and monitoring market conditions. Development consulting services would generate additional income while establishing relationships with potential clients and partners. The business model also incorporated flexibility that would enable adaptation to changing market conditions and expansion into related service areas as opportunities became available. The foundation of market analysis expertise and project management capabilities could support various types of development projects, from residential renovations to commercial repositioning initiatives to mixed-use developments that addressed multiple market segments simultaneously. The financial planning for Rodriguez Development Group required comprehensive analysis of startup costs, operating expenses, revenue projections, and cash flow requirements under various growth scenarios. The analysis needed to demonstrate both the viability of initial operations and the potential for scaling the business to achieve substantial long-term success. Initial capitalization requirements were estimated at approximately $200,000, based on analysis of acquisition costs for target properties, renovation expenses for typical improvement projects, working capital needs for operational expenses, and reserve funds for unexpected costs or market timing variations. This capital requirement was substantial, but achievable through combination of personal savings, strategic borrowing, and potential investor participation. The financial projections were based on conservative assumptions about project timelines, market absorption rates, and profit margins that could be achieved through efficient operations and strategic market positioning. Even under conservative scenarios, the analysis indicated that Rodriguez Development Group could achieve profitability within 18 months, while building a portfolio of properties that would appreciate significantly as target neighborhoods completed their transformation processes. Revenue projections incorporated multiple streams that would provide both immediate income and long-term growth potential. Property acquisition and improvement projects would generate profits averaging 20 to 30% of invested capital, depending on property characteristics and market timing factors. Property management fees would provide ongoing revenue streams averaging 8 to 12% of annual rental income. Development consulting services would command premium rates, while requiring minimal direct costs beyond professional time and expertise. The cash flow analysis revealed that successful execution would require careful coordination of property acquisition, renovation timing, and market positioning strategies. Initial projects would need to generate positive returns quickly to fund subsequent acquisitions and maintain operational liquidity. However, the analysis also indicated that successful completion of initial projects would establish credibility and cash flow that would support accelerated growth through larger projects and expanded market coverage. Financing strategies incorporated traditional commercial lending options, creative seller financing arrangements, and potential private investor partnerships that could provide both capital and professional expertise. The diversity of financing approaches would reduce dependence on any single source while providing flexibility to optimize terms and maintain strategic control over business operations. The operational plan for Rodriguez Development Group addressed every aspect of business implementation, from initial property identification through project completion and ongoing client relationship management. The framework was designed to ensure consistent quality standards while maintaining efficiency and cost control that would enable competitive pricing and superior profit margins. Property acquisition processes would utilize systematic screening criteria that identified opportunities, meeting specific investment parameters while avoiding properties with excessive risks or marginal profit potential. The screening methodology incorporated location analysis, structural assessment, financial evaluation, and market timing considerations that would optimize selection decisions and minimize project risks. Project management procedures would ensure efficient coordination of contractors, suppliers, regulatory approvals, and quality control throughout renovation and improvement processes. The systems were designed to minimize delays, control costs, and maintain quality standards that would support premium pricing and customer satisfaction objectives. Marketing strategies would target specific demographic groups through channels, and messaging designed to communicate unique value propositions effectively while building brand recognition and customer loyalty. The approach would emphasize authenticity, community connection, and personalized service rather than competing primarily on price or standardized amenities. Quality control systems would monitor every aspect of project execution to ensure consistent standards that would support reputation development and customer retention. The procedures incorporated regular inspections, performance metrics, and feedback collection that would enable continuous improvement and problem prevention rather than reactive problem-solving approaches. The operational framework also incorporated scalability considerations that would enable efficient growth as market opportunities expanded and financial resources increased. Initial procedures were designed to accommodate multiple simultaneous projects while maintaining quality and efficiency standards. The systems could be expanded to support larger teams and more complex projects without requiring fundamental restructuring of business operations. Comprehensive risk analysis identified potential challenges that could affect business success while developing mitigation strategies that would minimize negative impacts and maintain operational continuity during difficult periods. The analysis addressed both specific risks associated with real estate development and broader market risks that could affect overall business performance. Construction risks included cost overruns, timeline delays, quality control issues, and contractor performance problems that could affect project profitability and customer satisfaction. Mitigation strategies incorporated detailed planning procedures, contractor screening criteria, performance monitoring systems, and contingency reserves that would address potential problems before they became critical issues. Market risks included economic downturns, interest rate changes, demographic shifts, and competitive developments that could affect property values and customer demand patterns. The mitigation approach emphasized diversification across property types and neighborhood locations while maintaining financial flexibility that would enable adaptation to changing market conditions. Financing risks included interest rate fluctuations, credit availability changes, and cash flow timing issues that could affect project implementation and business growth capacity. The strategy incorporated diverse financing sources, conservative leverage ratios, and liquidity management procedures that would maintain operational flexibility during challenging periods. Regulatory risks included zoning changes, permit delays, environmental issues, and compliance requirements that could affect project feasibility and completion timelines. The mitigation framework incorporated thorough due diligence procedures, regulatory relationship management, and legal compliance systems that would minimize exposure to regulatory complications. The risk management approach also incorporated scenario planning that analyzed business performance under various adverse conditions while identifying adaptive strategies that would maintain viability during challenging periods. The analysis demonstrated that Rodriguez Development Group could survive and potentially prosper during market downturns through strategic repositioning and operational efficiency improvements. The competitive landscape analysis revealed both challenges and opportunities that would affect Rodriguez Development Group's market entry and growth strategies. Established developers possessed significant advantages in terms of financial resources, market relationships, and operational scale, but they also demonstrated limitations that created opportunities for smaller, more agile competitors who could address underserved market segments effectively. Large development companies typically focused on projects requiring substantial capital investments and generating revenues sufficient to support extensive overhead costs and corporate profit requirements. This focus created opportunities for smaller developers who could achieve profitability through projects that were too small or specialized for major competitors to pursue effectively. The established developers also relied heavily on standardized approaches that minimized customization and personal service in favor of operational efficiency and risk reduction. This approach was effective for serving mainstream market segments, but left gaps in serving customers who valued authenticity, community connection, and personalized attention over standardized amenities and conventional design features. Rodriguez Development Group would compete primarily through superior market analysis, creative project design, personalized customer service, and strategic focus on emerging neighborhoods where established competitors had limited presence. The competitive strategy would emphasize unique value creation rather than direct price competition, enabling premium pricing while building customer loyalty and market reputation. The positioning strategy would establish Rodriguez Development Group as the preferred developer for customers seeking authentic, community-oriented housing and commercial spaces in Denver's most promising emerging neighborhoods. The brand would represent quality, creativity, and personal attention rather than size, standardization, or conventional luxury amenities. Market entry timing was critical for establishing competitive position before larger developers recognized the opportunities in target neighborhoods and committed resources to competing directly. The strategy required rapid but careful expansion that would build market presence and customer relationships while maintaining quality standards and financial stability. The business plan incorporated technology solutions that would enhance operational efficiency, improve customer communication, and provide competitive advantages through superior information management and decision-making capabilities. The technology strategy balanced investment costs with productivity improvements while maintaining flexibility for future upgrades and expansions. Project management software would coordinate construction schedules, contractor communications, budget tracking, and quality control procedures through integrated systems that would minimize errors and delays while providing real-time visibility into project status and performance metrics. The software would also generate reports and analytics that would support continuous improvement initiatives and strategic planning processes. Financial management systems would integrate accounting, cash flow projection, investment analysis, and performance reporting functions that would enable sophisticated financial planning and control. The systems would provide detailed visibility into project profitability, operational efficiency, and strategic performance metrics that would support data-driven decision-making and investor reporting requirements. Customer relationship management. Platforms would maintain comprehensive records of client interactions, preferences, and satisfaction levels, while supporting targeted marketing communications and service customization initiatives. The systems would enable personalized service delivery while building databases that would support future marketing and business development activities. Market research and analysis tools would monitor demographic trends, property values, competitive activities, and regulatory developments that could affect business opportunities and strategic planning. The information systems would provide early warning of market changes while identifying emerging opportunities that could be addressed through strategic business adaptations. The technology integration strategy emphasized selecting solutions that would provide immediate operational benefits while supporting future scalability and feature expansion. The approach avoided overinvestment in sophisticated systems that exceeded current business needs, while ensuring that selected platforms could accommodate substantial growth and increased operational complexity. Success in real estate development requires extensive professional relationships with contractors, architects, engineers, attorneys, accountants, municipal officials, and financing sources who provide essential services and expertise throughout project development processes. The business plan incorporated systematic networking and relationship development strategies that would establish these connections efficiently while building reputation and credibility within Denver's real estate community. Contractor relationships were particularly critical because construction quality, timeline adherence, and cost control were essential for project success and customer satisfaction. The relationship development strategy incorporated careful screening of potential contractors, pilot project assessments, and ongoing performance monitoring that would identify the most reliable and competent service providers while building long-term partnerships based on mutual success. Professional service relationships with architects, engineers, attorneys, and accountants would provide specialized expertise while supporting compliance with regulatory requirements and quality standards. The selection criteria emphasized professionals who understood emerging neighborhood dynamics and could contribute creative solutions while maintaining cost efficiency and project timeline objectives. Municipal relationships with planning officials, permitting staff, and regulatory agencies would facilitate efficient project approvals while ensuring compliance with zoning requirements and development standards. The relationship-building approach incorporated regular communication, professional courtesy, and collaborative problem-solving that would establish Rodriguez Development Group as a preferred developer within municipal planning processes. Financing relationships with banks, private lenders, and potential investors would provide diverse capital sources while maintaining strategic flexibility and competitive borrowing terms. The development strategy incorporated systematic relationship, building with multiple financing sources to avoid dependence on any single provider, while optimizing terms and maintaining growth capacity. The networking and partnership development activities were integrated into ongoing business operations rather than treated as separate initiatives, ensuring that relationship building occurred naturally through professional interactions while demonstrating competence and reliability that would support future business opportunities and strategic collaborations. The business launch timeline incorporated specific milestones and performance targets that would measure progress while maintaining accountability for achieving strategic objectives within realistic timeframes. The implementation plan balanced urgency with thorough preparation, ensuring that business launch occurred quickly enough to capitalize on identified market opportunities while avoiding premature operation that could compromise quality standards or customer satisfaction. The initial phase focused on completing legal and regulatory requirements for business establishment, finalizing initial financing arrangements, and identifying the first acquisition opportunities that would demonstrate market viability while generating positive cash flow. This phase was projected to require approximately 3 months, during which time ongoing market research would continue to refine target property criteria and customer segment analysis. The second phase involved executing the first development projects while establishing operational procedures, contractor relationships, and customer communication systems that would support future growth. This phase was expected to require 6 to 9 months, depending on project complexity and market conditions, while generating initial revenue streams and market recognition. The third phase emphasized scaling operations through additional projects, while expanding market coverage and professional relationships that would support accelerated growth. This phase would demonstrate business model viability while building financial resources and market position necessary for larger projects and expanded service offerings. Each phase incorporated specific performance metrics and review procedures that would monitor progress while identifying necessary adjustments to strategy or operations. The milestone planning provided accountability and structure, while maintaining flexibility to adapt to changing market conditions or unexpected opportunities that could accelerate business development. The timeline also incorporated contingency, planning that addressed potential delays or complications while maintaining forward momentum toward strategic objectives. The approach recognized that real estate development involves complex variables that cannot be controlled completely, while ensuring that business implementation remained focused on achieving measurable progress toward long-term success goals. This comprehensive planning foundation would soon be tested through family interactions that revealed the fundamental disconnect between my entrepreneurial vision and their expectations for conventional career advancement. The detailed preparation would prove essential for maintaining confidence and strategic focus when personal relationships created emotional challenges that could have derailed business development efforts. The Rodriguez family operated according to deeply rooted cultural values and economic principles that had guided 3 generations of immigration, adaptation, and gradual advancement within American society. These principles emphasized collective decision-making, risk aversion, and respect for established authority structures that had enabled survival and modest prosperity under challenging circumstances. However, these same principles would create fundamental conflicts when confronted with entrepreneurial ambitions that required individual initiative, calculated risk-taking, and departure from conventional career trajectories. Sunday dinners at the Rodriguez household represented the primary forum for family communication and decision-making, where important developments were shared and analyzed through collaborative discussion that incorporated multiple perspectives and generational wisdom. These gatherings followed established protocols that reflected both Mexican cultural traditions and American middle-class social patterns, creating an environment where family business was conducted with formality and respect for hierarchical relationships. The dining room was arranged with careful attention to family positioning and conversational dynamics. Miguel occupied the head of the table, reflecting his role as primary breadwinner and family patriarch. Carmen sat to his right, symbolizing her position as household manager and financial coordinator. Isabel and I were positioned according to age and academic achievement, with seating arrangements that subtly reinforced family expectations and recognition patterns. Conversation topics followed predictable patterns that addressed academic progress, professional developments, financial considerations, and community involvement activities that affected family reputation and social standing. These discussions served multiple purposes simultaneously, providing information sharing, emotional support, and collective guidance while reinforcing family unity and shared values. My parents approached these conversations with genuine interest in my professional development and sincere concern for my long-term success and security. Their questions and comments reflected their own experiences with career advancement, financial planning, and risk management while demonstrating their investment in my achievements and their desire to provide whatever support might be beneficial for my continued progress. However, The framework they used for evaluating professional opportunities was fundamentally incompatible with entrepreneurial thinking and business ownership considerations. Their assessment criteria emphasized stability, predictability, and advancement within established organizational structures rather than value creation, market innovation, and independent business development strategies. My first attempts at discussing real estate development opportunities with my family occurred during routine Sunday dinner conversations where professional updates were traditionally shared and analyzed. I approached these discussions diplomatically, presenting market analysis and business concepts within contexts that emphasize security and long-term financial planning, rather than entrepreneurial risk-taking and independent business ownership. The initial presentation focused on Denver real estate market trends and demographic changes that were creating investment opportunities for individuals with appropriate expertise and financial resources. I explained how property values in emerging neighborhoods were appreciating significantly faster than established areas, creating potential for substantial returns through strategic acquisition and improvement projects. My parents listened attentively to these explanations while asking detailed questions about market conditions, investment requirements, and potential returns that demonstrated their genuine interest in understanding the opportunities I had identified. Their questions reflected practical concerns about financial security and risk management, while also indicating their respect for the analytical work I had conducted and the expertise I had developed through my employment at Morrison & Associates. Carmen was particularly interested in the financial aspects of real estate investment, asking detailed questions about acquisition costs, renovation expenses, financing alternatives, and cash flow projections that would affect family financial planning and long-term security considerations. Her questions demonstrated the systematic thinking and attention to detail that had enabled her to manage household finances effectively while building savings and investment accounts that provided family security. Miguel focused on market dynamics and competitive factors that would affect business success, drawing upon his manufacturing experience to understand supply and demand relationships, competitive positioning strategies, and operational efficiency, requirements that would determine profitability and sustainability. His questions indicated appreciation for the complexity of business operations while reflecting concern about my ability to compete effectively against established professionals with greater experience and resources. These initial conversations were encouraging because they demonstrated family interest in my professional development while providing opportunities to share detailed analysis and strategic thinking that had informed my business planning. My parents asked thoughtful questions that indicated respect for my expertise while expressing appropriate concern about risks and challenges that would need to be addressed successfully. However, subtle patterns within these conversations revealed underlying assumptions about my career trajectory that would eventually create conflicts when entrepreneurial plans became more specific and implementation timelines more immediate. Their questions consistently focused on how real estate knowledge could enhance my advancement within established companies, rather than supporting independent business ventures. As my market research became more comprehensive and my business planning more detailed, the gap between my entrepreneurial ambitions and my family's career expectations became increasingly apparent through conversations that revealed fundamental differences in risk assessment, opportunity evaluation, and professional development priorities. When I shared specific examples of properties that represented exceptional development opportunities, my parents responded with questions about acquisition, costs, and renovation expenses that emphasized potential financial losses rather than profit potential. When I explained demographic trends that supported optimistic appreciation projections, they focused on factors that could cause market reversals rather than indicators that suggested continued growth. Their responses were not unreasonable or uninformed, but they reflected risk management perspectives that were incompatible with entrepreneurial thinking and opportunity recognition. They approached investment decisions with primary concern for capital preservation rather than growth maximization, creating analytical frameworks that emphasized downside protection over upside potential. More troubling was their apparent inability To recognize the expertise and market knowledge I had developed through my employment at Morrison & Associates and my independent research activities, they acknowledged my professional competence within established organizational structures, while questioning my ability to evaluate opportunities independently or compete effectively against experienced developers. This pattern became particularly evident during discussions about specific development projects that I had analyzed as potential investments for Rodriguez Development Group. I would present comprehensive financial analysis that demonstrated exceptional return potential under conservative assumptions, supported by detailed market research and comparable transaction data that validated my projections. Their responses consistently focused on factors that could prevent successful project completion rather than strategic advantages that would enable superior performance compared to conventional investment alternatives. They would identify potential construction delays, cost overruns, regulatory complications, and market timing risks while giving minimal attention to mitigation strategies and competitive advantages that would address these concerns. The disconnect was emotionally challenging because it reflected not malicious intent or deliberate discouragement, but genuine concern about what they perceived as excessive optimism and inadequate risk assessment. They wanted me to succeed professionally and financially, but their definition of success was fundamentally different from my entrepreneurial objectives. The family's approach to risk assessment and opportunity evaluation had been shaped by immigration experiences and economic challenges that emphasized survival and gradual advancement over aggressive growth and wealth accumulation. Miguel and Carmen had achieved middle-class stability through careful planning, conservative financial management, and steady advancement within established employment structures rather than entrepreneurial ventures or speculative investments. Their immigrant experience had taught them that economic security required diversification, patience, and respect for established systems rather than innovation, risk-taking, and departure from proven approaches. They had witnessed families who lost everything through business failures, investment mistakes, and economic downturns that could have been avoided through more conservative strategies. These experiences created deeply ingrained preferences for employment security, steady income streams, and gradual wealth accumulation through proven methods rather than entrepreneurial ventures that could produce either exceptional success or catastrophic failure. Their risk management philosophy emphasized protecting what had been achieved rather than pursuing opportunities that could accelerate advancement, but also threatened existing security. The generational differences were equally significant because Miguel and Carmen had reached their professional achievements during economic periods when employment stability and corporate advancement provided reliable pathways to middle-class prosperity. Their career experiences had occurred before the economic restructuring that made independent business ownership increasingly necessary for achieving substantial financial success. From their perspective, my position at Morrison & Associates represented exactly the kind of stable, well-compensated employment that could support long-term career advancement and financial security. They could not understand why I would consider abandoning this security to pursue independent ventures that introduced unnecessary risks and uncertainties. Their cultural values also emphasized collective decision-making and family consultation for major life changes, creating expectations that entrepreneurial plans would be subject to family approval and ongoing family involvement. The concept of independent business ownership that excluded family participation violated cultural norms about appropriate decision-making processes and family relationships. Beyond financial and risk considerations, my parents' resistance to entrepreneurial plans reflected concerns about professional status and social recognition that would be affected by departure from conventional career advancement patterns. Their social environment included friends, colleagues, and extended family members who measured professional success through employment achievements and corporate advancement rather than business ownership and entrepreneurial accomplishments. Within their social circles, my position at Morrison & Associates represented significant achievement that reflected positively on family values and parenting effectiveness. They could discuss my professional progress with pride while comparing my advancement favorably to other families' children who were pursuing similar career trajectories in established companies and conventional industries. Entrepreneurial ventures, regardless of their profit potential or market opportunities, would introduce uncertainties and explanatory complexities that could affect family reputation and social standing. Business ownership carried cultural associations with economic desperation or excessive ambition that could be interpreted negatively by community members who valued stability and modesty over wealth accumulation and professional visibility. Carmen was particularly concerned about how entrepreneurial ventures would be perceived by friends and extended family members who expected professional advancement to occur through corporate employment and steady progression within established organizational hierarchies. She worried that business ownership would be interpreted as evidence of employment problems or unrealistic expectations rather than strategic career development and opportunity recognition. Miguel shared similar concerns while also questioning whether I possessed the personality characteristics and professional skills that would enable successful business leadership and client relationship management. His manufacturing experience had exposed him to various business owners and entrepreneurs, some of whom had achieved success while others had failed, despite apparent competence and dedication. These social and cultural considerations created additional resistance to entrepreneurial plans that extended beyond rational analysis of business opportunities and financial projections. My parents were concerned not only about potential business failure and financial losses, but also about social consequences and family reputation effects that could persist even if business ventures ultimately proved successful. The family dynamics surrounding my entrepreneurial ambitions were complicated by comparative treatment patterns that had developed over years of different academic and professional achievements between Isabel and myself. These patterns influenced how my business plans were perceived and evaluated, while creating additional emotional challenges that affected family relationships and communication processes. Isabel had consistently excelled in academic environments that aligned closely with family expectations and cultural values. Her achievements in literature and communication studies represented exactly the kind of educational success that my parents understood and valued, leading to career opportunities in nonprofit organizations and educational institutions that provided social recognition and professional respectability. Her career trajectory followed patterns that were familiar and comfortable for my parents, involving steady advancement within established organizations that provided clear performance metrics and advancement opportunities. Isabel's professional progress could be explained easily to friends and extended family members, while comparing favorably to other families' children who were pursuing similar educational and career paths. My own professional development, despite objective measures of success and market recognition, was more difficult for my parents to understand and explain within their social and cultural contexts. Real estate development required technical knowledge and market analysis capabilities that were not familiar to most of their friends and colleagues, creating communication challenges when discussing my professional achievements and career prospects. The comparison between Isabel's conventional career success and my entrepreneurial ambitions created subtle but persistent patterns of differential treatment and recognition that affected family conversations and decision-making processes. Isabel's professional updates were received with enthusiasm and pride, while my business plans were subjected to detailed questioning and risk analysis that reflected skepticism rather than celebration. These comparative patterns were not intentionally discriminatory or motivated by favoritism, but they reflected family comfort levels with different types of professional achievement and career development strategies. My parents could evaluate Isabel's progress using familiar criteria and cultural frameworks, while my entrepreneurial plans required assessment methods that were outside their experience and expertise. As my business planning became more detailed and my implementation timeline more specific, family conversations increasingly focused on encouraging me to abandon entrepreneurial aspirations in favor of advancement opportunities within Morrison and Associates or similar established companies. These discussions were presented as practical advice and family support, but they created mounting pressure to conform to conventional career development patterns. Miguel began sharing information about management positions and advancement opportunities that were available within established Denver companies, emphasizing the security and advancement potential that could be achieved through dedicated effort within proven organizational structures. He made inquiries within his professional network about openings that might be appropriate for someone with my education and experience, demonstrating his commitment to supporting my career development through conventional channels. Carmen focused on financial planning considerations that emphasized the importance of steady income streams and employment benefits that would support long-term security and family formation objectives. She expressed concern about the financial instability and uncertain income patterns that would result from independent business ownership, particularly during economic downturns or market corrections that could affect real estate development opportunities. Both parents began expressing opinions about appropriate timelines for career advancement and personal milestone achievements that reflected their expectations for conventional professional development and life progression patterns. They suggested that entrepreneurial ventures might be more appropriate after achieving greater financial security and professional recognition through employment advancement, effectively requesting indefinite postponement of business ownership plans. These conversations became increasingly frequent and intensive as my savings account balances grew larger and my market research became more comprehensive. My parents recognized that I was approaching financial and professional capabilities necessary for independent business launch, creating urgency around their efforts to redirect my career planning toward conventional alternatives. The pressure was emotionally challenging because it reflected genuine family concern and support while simultaneously undermining confidence in my analytical capabilities and professional judgment. They were attempting to provide guidance and protection while creating obstacles to pursuing opportunities that represented my strongest interests and greatest potential for exceptional achievement. My response to growing family resistance required careful balance between maintaining respectful family relationships and protecting entrepreneurial plans from excessive interference or premature disclosure that could create additional obstacles. I developed communication strategies that acknowledged family concerns while preserving strategic flexibility and decision-making autonomy necessary for business development. The approach involved providing selective information about business, planning activities while emphasizing aspects of entrepreneurial ventures that would be most acceptable to family risk management preferences and cultural values. I focused discussions on market research and analytical activities rather than specific implementation plans and timeline considerations that would generate immediate pressure for family involvement or approval. I also began emphasizing potential, long-term benefits of real estate expertise and market knowledge that could enhance family financial security and investment opportunities, regardless of whether entrepreneurial ventures were pursued immediately or postponed for future consideration. This approach acknowledged family financial planning priorities while maintaining credibility for market analysis and business development activities. The diplomatic strategy included regular updates about professional achievements and recognition within Morrison & Associates that demonstrated continued success within conventional career frameworks. These updates provided reassurance about employment security and advancement potential, while maintaining family confidence in my professional competence and judgment. However, the fundamental disconnect between entrepreneurial ambitions and family expectations continued to create underlying tension that affected every conversation about professional development and future planning. The careful balance between disclosure and discretion was becoming increasingly difficult to maintain as business planning reached advanced stages and implementation decisions approached critical timelines. As my entrepreneurial plans reached final development stages and capital accumulation approached levels necessary for business launch, I recognized that direct confrontation with family expectations was becoming inevitable. The diplomatic approach that had maintained temporary harmony would soon prove inadequate for addressing fundamental differences about risk assessment, opportunity evaluation, and appropriate career development strategies. The preparation for this confrontation required emotional and strategic planning that would enable me to present entrepreneurial plans comprehensively while maintaining family relationships through what would likely be a challenging and contentious discussion process. I needed to demonstrate respect for family concerns while also establishing boundaries around decision-making autonomy and professional independence. The business plan documentation and financial analysis that had been developed over months of intensive research would provide objective support for entrepreneurial ventures while addressing many of the concerns that family members had expressed during preliminary conversations. The comprehensive analysis would demonstrate systematic thinking and thorough preparation that should reduce perceptions of impulsive decision-making or inadequate risk assessment. However, I also recognized that rational analysis and detailed planning might prove insufficient for overcoming cultural and emotional resistance that was based on fundamental differences in risk tolerance and professional development philosophy. The confrontation would likely involve not only business considerations, but also deeper issues about family relationships, cultural expectations, and individual autonomy within collective decision-making frameworks. The stakes were becoming increasingly significant as market opportunities continued to develop and optimal timing for business launch approached. Delay beyond certain critical points could result in missing the most favorable market conditions while also allowing competitors to recognize and address the opportunities that my research had identified. The foundation was being established for what would become the most challenging period in both my professional development and family relationships, requiring navigation of complex dynamics that would ultimately determine whether entrepreneurial success would be achieved with family support or despite family opposition. The careful diplomatic management that had postponed direct confrontation was approaching its limits, setting the stage for decisive conversations that would define both business trajectory and family relationship patterns for years to come. The delicate balance between family harmony and entrepreneurial preparation reached its breaking point through circumstances that neither careful planning nor diplomatic communication could have anticipated. The catalyst emerged not from internal family dynamics or escalating career discussions, but from external financial pressures that transformed abstract conversations about business ownership into immediate decisions with concrete consequences for multiple family members. The crisis began on a Tuesday morning in late September, when Carmen received a phone call from the Human Resources Department at Denver Presbyterian Medical Center, where she had maintained part-time employment as a bookkeeper for nearly 8 years. The medical practice was undergoing organizational restructuring that would eliminate several administrative positions, including Carmen's role, effective at the end of October. The termination included 2 weeks of severance pay and extended health insurance coverage through December, but no additional compensation or transition assistance. The news was devastating for multiple reasons that extended beyond simple income. Reduction Carmen's position had provided not only financial contribution to household expenses, but also health insurance coverage that supplemented Miguel's manufacturing benefits, while offering superior prescription drug coverage and specialist care access that had become increasingly important as both parents entered their 50s and began experiencing age-related health considerations. The timing was particularly challenging because Miguel's manufacturing facility was simultaneously implementing cost reduction measures that included elimination of overtime opportunities and reduction of health insurance contributions that had previously made family coverage more affordable. The combination of Carmen's job loss and Miguel's reduced benefits created immediate financial pressure, while also threatening long-term security that had required years of careful planning and gradual accumulation. When Carmen shared this development, during our usual Sunday dinner gathering, the emotional impact on family dynamics was immediate and profound. The financial implications were serious enough to require comprehensive review of household budgets, expense priorities, and income generation strategies that would address both immediate needs and long-term security objectives. However, the psychological impact was equally significant because it challenged assumptions about stability and predictability that had influenced family planning and decision-making for years. Miguel's initial response combined practical problem-solving with emotional support, emphasizing that families had survived economic challenges before and would find solutions through collective effort and strategic adaptation. He immediately began calculating household expense reductions that could be implemented without compromising essential needs, while exploring employment opportunities that might provide Carmen with comparable income and benefits within reasonable commuting distance. Carmen's reaction reflected both disappointment about the job loss itself and concern about broader economic trends that seemed to be affecting multiple industries and employment sectors simultaneously. She had observed similar reorganization activities at other medical practices and professional service companies, suggesting that her experience was part of larger economic adjustments rather than isolated organizational changes that could be addressed through conventional job searching strategies. Isabel responded with immediate offers to increase her financial contributions to household expenses, while also volunteering to research employment opportunities within nonprofit organizations and educational institutions where her professional connections might provide access to positions suitable for Carmen's experience and qualifications. Her response demonstrated family loyalty and practical support, while also revealing her understanding of collective responsibility during challenging periods. My own response was more complex because the family's financial crisis intersected directly with entrepreneurial plans that had reached advanced stages of development and were approaching optimal timing for implementation. The market opportunities that had been identified through months of research remained compelling and time-sensitive. But family circumstances now created emotional and practical pressures that complicated independent business decision-making processes. Within days of Carmen's job loss announcement, I received information about a development opportunity that represented exactly the kind of strategic investment that Rodriguez Development Group had been designed to pursue. The opportunity involved a prominent corner property in the Highlands District that had become available through circumstances that created exceptional value potential for buyers who could act quickly and decisively. The property was a 3-story mixed-use building that had been constructed in the early 1900s and featured the architectural character and structural integrity that appealed to demographic groups driving neighborhood transformation. The ground floor had previously housed retail establishments that served both neighborhood residents and visitors from other areas of Denver. The upper floors contained residential units that had been occupied by long-term tenants who appreciated both affordability and urban convenience. The building had become available because the current owners were experiencing financial difficulties that required immediate sale to address debt obligations and avoid foreclosure proceedings. The circumstances created opportunities for strategic buyers to acquire exceptional properties at substantial discounts to market value, while assuming responsibility for addressing deferred maintenance issues and tenant relationship management challenges. My analysis indicated that the property could be acquired for approximately $150,000, significantly below comparable market values, while requiring additional investment of approximately $75,000 for renovations and improvements that would transform the building into premium residential and commercial space, appealing to target demographic groups. The financial projections suggested that completed renovation would create property value of approximately $400,000, representing potential returns of nearly 100% on total investment, while also generating ongoing rental income streams that would support additional development projects and business expansion activities. More importantly, the property represented exactly the kind of strategic opportunity that could establish Rodriguez Development Group's market presence while demonstrating capabilities and generating financial resources necessary for larger projects and accelerated growth. Successful completion of this initial project would provide credibility with financing sources, professional relationships, and potential clients while building operational experience and market recognition essential for long-term business success. However, the timing created unprecedented challenges because family financial pressures now competed directly with entrepreneurial capital requirements, forcing decisions about resource allocation that would affect both business opportunities and family security considerations simultaneously. The intersection of family crisis and business opportunity required comprehensive analysis of financial alternatives and strategic priorities that could address both immediate family needs and long-term entrepreneurial objectives. The analysis revealed that available resources were insufficient to provide optimal solutions for both situations simultaneously, creating necessity for difficult choices about resource allocation and timing considerations. My accumulated savings of approximately $125,000 represented the foundation for Rodriguez Development Group capitalization, while also constituting the largest readily available resource for addressing family financial challenges. The savings could provide substantial family support during Carmen's job transition, while also maintaining emergency reserves for unexpected expenses or extended unemployment periods. Alternatively, the savings could fund the Highland District acquisition and renovation project that would generate both immediate profits and ongoing income streams, while establishing business operations that could eventually provide employment, opportunities, and financial security for multiple family members. This approach would maximize long-term wealth creation potential, while also contributing to family financial stability through business success rather than direct financial transfers. The analytical framework required balancing immediate family security needs against entrepreneurial opportunity costs, while also considering timing factors that affected both family employment prospects and real estate market conditions. Delay in addressing family financial pressures could create additional stress and potential long-term consequences, while delay in pursuing development opportunities could result in losing strategic properties to other buyers and missing optimal market timing conditions. Additional complexity emerged from recognition that family financial challenges might continue or intensify if broader economic conditions were affecting multiple employment sectors and creating sustained job market difficulties. Providing immediate family support through savings depletion might address current challenges while leaving everyone vulnerable to future economic pressures without the business development and wealth creation opportunities that entrepreneurial success could provide. The analysis also needed to consider emotional and relationship factors that extended beyond rational financial calculations. Family support during crisis periods represented fundamental cultural values and personal obligations that could not be dismissed simply because entrepreneurial opportunities offered superior long-term returns. However, abandoning business development at critical timing points could also represent failure to pursue opportunities that could benefit everyone involved through eventual success and wealth creation. The family's financial crisis transformed abstract discussions about appropriate career priorities into immediate expectations for concrete assistance that would address urgent needs while demonstrating family loyalty and personal responsibility. The conversations that followed Carmen's job loss revelation created unprecedented pressure for abandoning entrepreneurial plans in favor of direct family financial support and conventional employment focus. Miguel's approach combined practical requests with emotional appeals that emphasized family unity and collective responsibility during challenging periods. He explained that successful families survived difficulties through mutual support and shared sacrifice while maintaining long-term perspectives about individual advancement and achievement. From his viewpoint, my accumulated savings represented family resources that should be available for addressing collective challenges rather than individual business ventures. His arguments were logical and emotionally compelling, emphasizing that family security represented higher priority than entrepreneurial opportunities that involved inherent risks and uncertain outcomes. He suggested that business ownership aspirations could be pursued after family financial stability was restored, and economic conditions became more favorable for new venture development and growth. Carmen's perspective focused on immediate practical needs, while also expressing concern about timing considerations that affected her ability to secure alternative employment with comparable compensation and benefits. She explained that extended unemployment could create compounding problems that would become increasingly difficult to address through conventional solutions, while immediate support could provide stability necessary for effective job searching and career transition planning. Both parents presented their requests within frameworks that acknowledged my professional competence and family loyalty, while simultaneously questioning whether entrepreneurial pursuits represented appropriate priorities given current family circumstances. They suggested that successful business ownership required financial security and family stability that could not be achieved if immediate needs were not addressed adequately. Isabel's position was more nuanced because she understood both family financial pressures and entrepreneurial opportunity costs that were involved in resource allocation decisions. She supported family assistance while also recognizing that business development represented long-term strategy for creating wealth and security that could benefit everyone involved through eventual success and expansion. However, even Isabel's balanced perspective included suggestions that entrepreneurial plans could be postponed temporarily while addressing immediate family needs, then resumed when circumstances became more favorable for business development and growth. This approach appeared reasonable and compassionate, while actually requiring abandonment of time-sensitive opportunities that might not be available for future consideration. The pressure for immediate decision-making created unprecedented challenges for maintaining entrepreneurial focus while also addressing legitimate family concerns and obligations. The situation required strategic thinking that could balance competing priorities while preserving opportunities for eventual business success and family financial security achievement through multiple pathways. My analysis of available alternatives revealed that conventional approaches to the dilemma would likely result in suboptimal outcomes for both family financial security and entrepreneurial development. Direct financial support would address immediate needs while eliminating business development opportunities. Complete focus on business development would maintain entrepreneurial potential while potentially creating family hardship and relationship damage. However, creative problem-solving approaches suggested possibilities for addressing both family needs and business opportunities through integrated strategies that maximized available resources while minimizing opportunity costs and relationship complications. These alternatives required sophisticated planning and execution capabilities, but they offered potential for achieving superior outcomes compared to conventional either-or decision frameworks. One strategic alternative involved negotiating partnership arrangements for the Highland District project that would reduce capital requirements while maintaining ownership participation and operational control. Private investors or development partners could provide initial funding while receiving returns based on project success, enabling business launch without depleting personal savings that could be allocated to family support. Another approach involved exploring employment opportunities within established development companies that offered immediate income increases and learning opportunities, while building professional relationships and market knowledge that would support future independent ventures. This strategy could provide both immediate financial resources for family assistance and continued progress toward entrepreneurial objectives through alternative pathways. A third alternative focused on accelerated timeline implementation that would complete initial project development quickly enough to generate profits that could address both business reinvestment needs and family financial support requirements. This approach required intensive project management and risk acceptance, but it offered possibilities for achieving multiple objectives simultaneously through exceptional execution and market timing optimization. Each alternative required careful analysis of implementation requirements, success probabilities, and potential consequences under various scenarios. The decision-making process needed to consider not only financial outcomes, but also relationship impacts, professional development, implications, and long-term strategic positioning effects that would influence future opportunities and capabilities. The Highland District property opportunity included timing constraints that intensified decision-making pressure, while limiting alternatives for delayed implementation or extended analysis periods. The sellers required purchase commitments within 2 weeks, reflecting their urgent financial circumstances and desire to complete transactions quickly without extended negotiation or contingency periods. Market research indicated that similar properties in emerging Denver neighborhoods were attracting increasing attention from developers and investors, who recognized appreciation potential and profit opportunities available through strategic acquisition and improvement projects. Delay in pursuing identified opportunities could result in increased competition and higher acquisition costs that would reduce profit margins and project viability. The demographic trends and infrastructure developments that supported optimistic projections for the Highland District were continuing to accelerate, creating conditions that favored early market entry while potentially limiting future opportunities for comparable returns. Neighborhood transformation processes were reaching critical momentum points where property values would begin reflecting appreciation potential, reducing availability of undervalued acquisition opportunities. Financing market conditions were also favorable for development projects, with interest rates and lending requirements that supported property acquisition and renovation financing for qualified borrowers with appropriate experience and financial resources. Economic indicators suggested that favorable financing conditions might not persist indefinitely, creating additional urgency around optimal timing for project implementation. The combination of property availability, market timing, demographic trends, and financing conditions created convergent factors that supported immediate action while suggesting that delayed implementation could result in significantly reduced opportunities and potential returns. The entrepreneurial opportunity represented not only current profit potential, but also strategic positioning for future market expansion and business development. However, these timing pressures directly conflicted with family expectations for immediate resource allocation toward addressing unemployment and financial security challenges that required rapid response and sustained support. The conflict between optimal business timing and family crisis timing created unprecedented decision-making complexity that could not be resolved through conventional priority assessment approaches. The resource allocation dilemma revealed fundamental tensions between cultural values that emphasized collective family responsibility and individual autonomy, considerations that supported entrepreneurial pursuits and personal achievement objectives. These tensions had remained largely theoretical during previous family discussions, but current circumstances required concrete decisions that would demonstrate actual priority commitments and value systems. Mexican cultural traditions that influenced Rodriguez family dynamics included strong expectations for family support during crisis periods, with individual resources considered available for collective needs when circumstances required mutual assistance and shared sacrifice. These cultural values had provided strength and security during previous challenges, while creating family unity and loyalty that supported everyone's advancement and achievement. American cultural values that had influenced my educational and professional development emphasized individual opportunity pursuit and personal responsibility for achievement and advancement. These values supported entrepreneurial thinking and risk-taking, while encouraging strategic decision-making that maximized individual potential and contributed to broader economic development and innovation. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.